Hey there, thanks so much for stopping in. I hope you enjoyed this next mini class. And if you do, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, like it, maybe even leave a comment. Thanks. See you in a minute. Today we are talking about what iridology can and can't do, and what an iridologist can and can't say. Now, this is really important because there are lots of misconceptions about iridology that are being perpetrated by people who've been trained in archaic and disproven methodologies. Now, that's a problem because it gives all of us a bad name. Iridologists who are up to date and who are practicing constitutional iridology are using the most current style. And this is the style that has ongoing research where it hasn't gotten stuck in the past. And I'll tell you a bit about my history as we get going, but let's actually just stay on track with where we want to be for the time being. Let's look at a few eyes first. So this iris that you're looking at right now shows someone who has a very resilient pattern. When we look at how the fibers are fairly fine, they're densely patched, they're tightly woven together, there's no other major loops or odd things happening on the surface of this. This is someone who genetically has a very resilient body. However, what the eyes don't show us is what the person is actually doing with that. At least the irides don't show us that. We see some various predispositions here to maybe a slight reduction in the resiliency of the digestive tract. There might be some challenges, so a predisposition to challenges with how the blood and the lymph circulates. But predominantly, this eye shows a very resilient predisposition. The trick is that even with an eye like this, if this person isn't following the health rules that their body needs to have followed, they could have health problems. The fact that we see a slightly lowered resilient in the digestive tract doesn't mean that the stomach and the intestines are weak. It means they need support. Maybe this person already figured out that if they take a digestive enzyme, if they use a little bit of ginger tea, things like that, that supports their digestion so they have no symptoms. They're doing the right things. When we see that we've got the clouding here that suggests there might be a predisposition towards congestion in the lymphatic circulation and the core blood circulation, maybe this person has eliminated all mucus-forming foods that could gum up the lymphatics. Maybe this person has a very physically active lifestyle. Maybe they're doing the things they need to preempt those predispositions, in which case this person doesn't have those problems. They only have the risk of those problems. When we see a strong resiliency, it doesn't guarantee this person's going to be healthy. Just as when we see a reduced resiliency or other kinds of markings, it doesn't mean the person will have problems in those areas, just that they are at a greater risk for those kinds of problems. I want to compare this to a Rolls-Royce. A Rolls-Royce is supposed to be one of the best cars ever made, well built, well engineered, they don't break down. But even a Rolls-Royce can be driven into the ground if it's not properly cared for. It still needs to have its maintenance work done on a regular schedule. A car of lesser quality can last many, many years as long as it is maintained appropriately. And the same is absolutely true of people. A client might have been blessed with a genetically strong body, but if they're not taking good care of it, it will break down. A person who has been gifted a body that is not as resilient can enjoy really good health if they take good care. Let me know if this is making sense to you, that the irides are showing us predispositions, they're not showing us guarantees. If that makes sense, give me a makes sense in the comments box. Yeah, Tara is saying it makes sense. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. Anyone else agreeing that that makes sense? Yeah? Okay. Wonderful. Love it. So someone else, like this person, might have been born again with a less resilient body. This person is going to have to learn their health rules. They're going to have to be more focused and more diligent with doing things that are supportive of health in order to enjoy good health. The one thing that I've really noticed, though, is that people who have this kind of a really strong resiliency often don't take good care of their bodies until they get to be about 50 years old, at which point in time everything starts falling apart. And they're saying, but I've never been sick a day in my life. Why is this happening? Well, it's happening because you didn't eat your veggies, you partied too hard, you didn't get enough sleep, you really did not support your body. Whereas people who have this kind of a constitution often figure out really early in life, I need my sleep. Those foods don't work for me. These foods work really well for me. My body likes this kind of physical activity. And when they learn those rules and implement them, they can enjoy really excellent health for a very, very long time. Super important for us to remember that the IRIDEs show us predispositions. They do not give us guarantees, nor do the IRIDEs tell us what is going on in the body right now. So I can't look at this body or at this iris and say, you've got this problem right now. And you'll see a lot of that on Facebook, on social media, where they'll say that this means that your liver is congested, you need to do a detox. That this means your kidneys are congested, you need to do a detox. You need to cut out all the dairy in your diet. And ludicrous things being told without knowing the person just by looking at their eyes. So when a client comes in with symptoms that don't match their IRIDEs, and that often happens where the eyes suggest the weaknesses are in this area, and so we want to follow that line of questioning, sometimes the symptoms just don't seem to line up. And that is almost always because the client has been not taking care of their body. So, and that not taking care could be on a physical level, it could be on an emotional level, right? We all know that emotions wreak havoc with our health, especially the negative, stressful kinds of emotions, the emotions that are not positive and happy can really cause some problems. So while iridology shows us the blueprint for the body, where the body's inherent tendencies are, it doesn't account for the abuse that's being dished out. And I mean, that abuse could be something as obvious as smoking. It might be something less obvious, like skimping on sleep or having a sedentary lifestyle. I'm intrigued by the number of clients that come in saying, I just don't have enough energy. And when we talk about sleep, they're getting maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. And it's like, well, help us out a little bit. Plug yourself in for more sleep than that, and we'll improve your energy quite easily. Iridology informs us as to the best ways to care for the body. It shows us where the weak links are genetically. When we understand how those weak links work together to create the symptoms the client has, that helps us to understand what the root cause of the symptom is. And that helps us to understand what the dietary changes need to be, what the supplement changes need to be, what the lifestyle changes need to be. In order for us to truly help people with iridology, we do need to have other modalities. Iridology on its own is simply an assessment tool. It shows us where the inherent strengths and weaknesses are. It does not tell us what those strengths and weaknesses are, only where they are. And that's where we need to understand anatomy and physiology really well, to understand how the organs work with each other or against each other. And then to have a modality like herbology or nutrition or aromatherapy or some kind of spinal alignment techniques or body energy techniques. Trying to do iridology without supporting modalities is very much like taking your car to a mechanic and you think you're going to get your car repaired. It's making a funny noise, and the mechanic says, yeah, now I know exactly what's wrong with it, but I only diagnose things here. I only assess things here. I don't do any repairs. I just find the problem. You're going to have to take your car to Bob down the street. He knows how to fix things. So an iridologist that only knows iridology but doesn't have a modality is like a mechanic who doesn't know how to do the fixing. And clients don't like that. They want you to be able to help them understand what's out of balance, why it's out of balance, and what they can do with it. All right, so with that, now that you know a bit about where we're headed in today's mini class, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself, because as we said at the beginning, for some of you, I am new in your world, or you are new in my world. My name is Judith Cobb, and I am a master herbalist, natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a certified level 3 iridology instructor. I got into holistic health over 4 decades ago because I was having health problems, and the medical world was being no help whatsoever. They were running tests and running tests and running more tests, and they never seemed to be able to narrow down what the issue could be or rule anything out. Fortunately, that was when holistic healing came into my path. I met a young man who knew a little bit about herbs, a bit about nutrition, a bit about iridology, a little bit about a lot of things holistic. He taught me what he knew. We fell in love and did get married, and we are still married. But that was the beginning of it. From there, we actually both dropped out of university when we got married, and I launched into studying anything I could get my hands on that was holistic. And that's where I've been for the past 4 decades. I am currently a professional member with the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutrition Professionals, a professional member of the Canadian Association of Natural Nutrition Practitioners, and also a professional member of the Alberta Herbalist Association, as well as, lots of other things. But those are the most important ones for where we're at today. As an iridologist, I am a level 3 certified iridologist. Now, IPA, the International Iridology Practitioners Association, issues these badges every 2 years when we update our training and stay on top of things. And so that's why this only says 2 years on it. I've actually been an iridologist for many more years than that, and as a certified iridologist for many years, and certified with IPA for many years. About 1.5 years ago, they added the level 3. Level 1 and 2 is what you need to become a certified iridologist. Level 3 is a build onto that. It's more advanced information. And 1.5 years ago, there was a group of us that completed the level 3 training, but there are only 5 of us who have certified as level 3 instructors. And I am one of them. I love teaching what I teach, what I do to health professionals. I love teaching them the art and science of iridology, especially. And as importantly, I love to teach them how to integrate iridology into their clinical work. When we use iridology properly, it can help to reduce the amount of time it takes to assess a client. It can help to reduce the amount of time it takes to create a protocol for that client. And that means that we are more likely to create simpler programs that are more focused, programs that our clients can actually be successful with. I typically define the health professional as anyone who has completed a college level anatomy and physiology course. So if you did a semester of A&P in college and you got an 80% or above, you qualified. Maybe you had to do that as a general education, like freshman year kind of program. But if you've got that under your belt, you've got the background that you need to come into my iridology program. So stay with me if you've already got that, or you're a herbalist, a nutritionist, a naturopath, a licensed massage therapist, anything like that. Stay with me to the end, because I have an invitation for you. Over the years that I've been in this, I've also written several books and self-published them. They're all out of print except for one right now. Pregnancy Naturally, the Herbal Birth Kit Handbook, Healthy Kids Naturally, The Essential Guide to Nature's Sunshine Products, Biokinesiology and Color Therapy Level 1 and 2. The most recent book is The Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology Textbook. That book is available, but it is only available to students in my course. I've also created and taught many courses, most of them to go with those books. Herbology level 1 and level 2, which was a total of 36 hours of training in the practical application of herbs that you could buy already prepared in a health food store. It was mostly meant for home use. I've also designed and taught biokinesiology and color therapy level 1 and 2. Some of you might know BioK more by its other name, muscle testing. For a few years, I was a certified prenatal educator, so I designed and taught prenatal classes. That was fun. Fertility and pregnancy are certainly passions of mine. And most recently, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I became a certified instructor with IPA and have designed and taught an iridology course that is approved of by IPA, and it prepares students to become certified iridologists. So again, stay with me to the end of the mini class today if you're interested in information on that, because we do have another cohort starting up next week. All right, so let's look at some of the things that iridologists are teaching and saying that are not right and why they can't and shouldn't be saying that. Does that sound like something we want to do? Yeah, that's kind of what you signed up for today, right? All righty. One of the things we cannot say is we cannot name diseases from the eye. We cannot look at an eye and say, you have diabetes, or you have heart disease, or you have psoriasis. We can certainly often see markers in the eye that suggest the risk of a pancreatic imbalance, the risk of cardiovascular concerns, the risk of skin concerns, but we cannot name disease. We may, when we see those indicators in an eye, we may use those to ask questions. So the way my consultations work is the client comes in and I ask them, what would you like my help with? They give me their shopping list of symptoms, because that's really what it is, right? Headaches, gut ache, whatever, whatever. And then from there, I take the iridology photos and I assess their eye photos in the context of what they want help with. Because there may be many, many markers in an eye that do not tell me anything about their health concerns that they've got right now. There may be 3 or 4 that specifically give me information. For example, if someone says, I have gut aches, I can look at the GI tract area in the eye. That will give me information about what questions to ask, right? And so if someone has a heart concern, I may be able to look and see that there are markers in the heart area that are genetic, but maybe that's not where the markers are. Maybe the markers are actually in the sclera, right? And maybe the markers in the sclera don't speak directly to heart, but they speak to vascular. So it's really important for us to understand that we're not always looking at the specific organ area for what is going on. So a kind of a question to ask would be, is there a personal or family history of blood sugar disorders? If we see an indication that pancreas might genetically be out of line. And if the client says he has blood sugar issues, we cannot actually call it diabetes unless we are licensed medical practitioners, but we would never do that from the eyes. We can certainly teach a client about the markings we see and help them to understand what it means for their genetic predisposition, and help them to understand that these markings teach us that they are at risk for not processing carbohydrates properly. And then we can ask them if they've had counseling from a doctor in that regard, which usually they haven't, because doctors don't typically talk about how to remediate things, right? And so because I've got nutrition training and herbal training, I can teach them about the historic use and the natural ways of bringing balance into those areas of the body without ever naming a disease. Naming a disease limits us. It puts a fence around what we're talking about. And that fence might be too narrow for us to actually do good. We might want a broader approach to make sure we're really addressing the problem fully. Do you hear what I'm doing here? Do you hear how I'm avoiding naming a disease and yet I'm working to educate the client about that area of their health. You know, we can also share studies and historical information about things. It is a tremendous disservice and potentially dangerous for the client and the iridologist to do an iris analysis on social media, because we cannot have a real-time conversation there. When you see these long lists of markers on social media, and then you see the long list of problems that could be coming off that, what you will also see is that the client or the person who is asking for that free information is going to pick and choose the individual things that they want to work with, whether those are actually really where they should be working or not. They may choose the easiest things to work on. You know, it's just not an effective way to work with people. We also don't want to give those really long lists, because when we give those long lists, it's too much information for the client. And that is not saying clients are stupid. It's saying if you give a list of 10 or 15 markers, 10 or 15 things that could be causing, and then 20 or 30 recommendations for how to work on that, how much of that is actually going to be absorbed? So much more effective to laser in on the markings that teach us about the client's concerns, and then laser in on recommendations, just 1 or 2 or 3 recommendations that will have the biggest impact. Easy is good. Do you agree that keeping things simple is a good idea? If you do, give me simple in the comments box. You know, in my early days of being an iridologist, I did do that kind of iridology that said, give them the big list, give them everything they need to know, just literally, and please forgive the crudity of this, but I vomited everything I could all over them in one appointment. Not effective. I have found that in the last 30 years, as I've worked with lasering in and focusing clearly, my clients get far better results. And Tacita is saying the acronym KISS, absolutely. Keep it simple for success is what I like to say KISS stands for. So let's look at this set of images that we have on the screen right now. What we know about the irides is we cannot purge pigment out of an eye, but an iris can accumulate pigment over time. That accumulation of pigment is not an indication of toxicity. It is an indication of a genetic cue, of something genetically that is starting up. I like to liken pigment becoming obvious in an eye to the way my hair didn't used to be gray. There was a genetic cue that made my hair start to turn gray at a certain age, right? So that's what the pigment is. These are the same gentleman. One photo taken at age 42, the other at age 65. So just really quickly in the chat box, I want to see, when you compare these two photos, what are the differences you see? What are the differences you see as you look at these two photos? And you can refer to them as the photo on the left and the photo on the right, or the left or right. They're both the same eye, but we're talking about side of the screen. What are the differences you notice here? Okay. We've got one comment. Who else wants to weigh in on this? What other differences do you see? Because I want to talk to you, I want to teach you some iridology today. Age 42 is darker on the orange color, Trina says. Okay. 42, more pigment and closer to the pupil, 65, less and further out. Okay. Okay. I love this. I love that you're looking deeply and you're really doing some comparison. Nicely done. We'll talk about what this all means. Anyone else have anything else they want to weigh in on? Okay, we'll kind of watch for that. First thing I want to point out is these were taken with different cameras. Janine says on age 65, contraction furrows on age 65 affecting digestion. Color is darker gray to lighter gray. Okay, good observations, good observations. And thank you for putting those in there. I'm going to blow everything you've said out of the water. And I'm going to explain why. This is why doing iridology on social media is so dangerous. These photos were taken with different cameras and different lighting. This was a print film camera. So this is a scan of a photo. This was taken with an incandescent flash, which means it has a slightly yellow hue. This camera, I think, was an Olympus brand. I don't even know if Olympus is still around. This was taken with a 24 megapixel digital camera, a Canon, with an LED light, which means the LED light is slightly bluer. We know that different camera brands manifest color slightly differently. That is the only thing that accounts for the color difference between age 42 and age 65, is the fact that our technology has changed. When we look at this incandescent light, you will notice that the pupil is much larger, which means this was a dimmer light. How many of you know what pantyhose are? If you know what pantyhose are, give me pantyhose in the comments box. Janine says me, love it. Okay, I love it when people, pantyhose, right on. Okay, so you know when you've got pantyhose and it's still in the package, or you maybe just opened the package, you haven't put it on yet, the color looks quite thick and quite dense. But when you stretch the pantyhose out and you stretch those fibers, the color becomes less intense, right? Do you agree with me on that? That as you stretch it out, the color becomes less intense? Janine says true. Absolutely. Tacita says yes. Fantastic. That's exactly what happens here. So when we use a brighter light and the pupil is smaller, we have stretched the iris fibers out over a longer distance. That stretches out the pigment, and that's going to make the pigment look much less intense. So that's why at age 42, the pigment looks very yellow, that and the fact that we've got an incandescent flash. Here with the light being much brighter, that's going to partially wash out some of the color, and it's going to shrink the pupil, which is going to stretch the fiber and therefore stretch that pigment out over a larger area, making it look less dense. Wow, I thought the age 65 was contracting. Janine, yeah, isn't that interesting? At age 65, no, not contracting. What you will see, and this is the beauty of side lighting in both of these, is that we've got pretty much the exact same contraction furrows in each, well, they are the exact same contraction furrows in each eye. They may look a little bit further apart in the age 65, again, because the fibers have been stretched. Okay, and that's okay. Isn't it great to have an observation that was incorrect and get it corrected? Isn't that fabulous? So good for you. Good for you. That's fabulous. I love it when in class, when my students make, I'm going to call it a mistake. I don't think it really is. But when they give me the chance to reteach something and correct the information to make sure they've got it solid, that I love that. And Janine says now the pantyhose will get stuck in my mind. At least it's an accurate concept. It's good to have the good information stuck in there, right? So good. Now, I mentioned at the outset that pigment does not get erased. You cannot juice fast yourself enough to take pigment out of your irides. Not possible, not possible. But with time again, the genetic cues will deposit, in some people, will deposit more pigment in the eye. And when we see that depositing, we know what the color of the pigment means. The color tells us which organ wants to cause some issues. The placement of the pigment tells us which other organs are going to be most affected by this, right? So now we've got this layer of information. This fellow says, I didn't have this problem 40 or 20 years ago, but now I've got a problem. We go, oh, okay. And he tells us what the problem is, and maybe it's sitting right in this organ that's right here. And we go, okay, well, I understand why you likely have that problem. It's because this other organ, the organ that gave us this color, wants to impact the organ that sits right here in the iris. So the wrong thing to do is to support this organ. The right thing to do is to support this organ. So going to the root of the problem. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, just give me an emoji in the comments box, a happy face or something that it makes sense. So iridology helps us to trace back and understand what the root of the problem likely is, where the root of the problem is, not what it is, but where it is. Let's do a quick case study. This is a client of mine. Many of my clients have been with me for decades, and this client is the same. She's been with me for probably 20 years anyways. These were new photos we did. I got a new camera and about 5 years ago, and I invited her to come back in so I could grab fresh photos with a better camera than what I had before. And we would never use, like we've seen, we never use old photos and new photos, like old camera, new camera as a before and after for comparison purposes. And so this client, 44 years of age, when she came in, she's 5'10", so she's quite tall. And she weighed 200 pounds, but she was gaining weight. I don't know any woman who is typically happy to gain weight. She was having achy joints. She was feeling depressed. Worse in the winter. We live north of the 49th parallel, so we have a thing here called seasonal affective disorder, which a lot of people are in right now because our daylight hours are so short. And she was having very painful menstrual periods. Her inherent predisposition, as we look at the structure of her eye fiber, is that she is prone to connective tissue weakness, which could contribute to the joint issues. We see that she has a central heterochromia, and her central heterochromia says the liver pigment is liver, and that the liver wants to mess a lot of things up. Well, when we look at traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is the seat of depression. The liver also balances your hormones. She also has some very dirty yellow in here, which says kidneys may not want to do their job. She has a shoe lacuna that says kidneys inherently may not want to do their job. And so kidneys are about balancing acid in the body, right? Not digestive acid, but tissue blood acid. We know that weight gain is always inflammation based. So even though we had gone over her diet many times over the years previous, I know that when my clients disappear for a few years, they're falling off the wagon. They're going back to old habits, and they're going to need me to gently bring them back to get them on track. So when I asked her about her digestion, she said there were no symptoms, but her eyes say that there are inherent challenges there. I asked her about her coffee consumption, which she had gotten to 0 years previously, but now she was back up to 3 or 4 cups a day. Now, I don't care what people say about coffee. There are no redeeming values to coffee consumption, at least not orally. Maybe as an enema, but not orally. And so when we look at coffee, it is hard on the thyroid, the liver, the stomach lining, the adrenals, the bones. It increases body acid. All of that leads to increased inflammation. So in this restart appointment that I had with her, we suggested eliminating coffee. And she went, yeah, I knew you were going to say that. All right, so let's get on it, because it would affect most of her symptoms. I also suggested adding a collagen supplement to her program and some digestive enzymes. Also suggested increasing her leafy greens. Now, that's all we did in that first appointment. Did you see how easy that was? Eliminate coffee, more leafy greens, collagen, and a digestive enzyme. That's it. That's all. Start simple. Even with that, just a month later in her second appointment, she really buckled down. She said, I know I need to do that. And so she did it. She such a good trooper on this one. And she found that just within a month, her joints were improving. The menstrual cycle, her menstrual flow that she had towards the end of that month, much, much easier. The depression was already starting to lift. Fantastic. So let's move on. I asked her now about her water intake. Maybe getting 3 glasses a day. Asked her about her sleep, because the liver is also the seat of most insomnia. And she said her sleep was broken. It wasn't great. So now I could build. She was not drinking coffee. She was eating leafy greens. She was doing those first 2 supplements. So now I suggested that we needed to be getting protein at every meal to keep her blood sugars stable. And I asked her to talk to her medical doctor about getting a diagnosis of SAD, which I didn't say she had it. I said, talk to your doctor and see if he agrees, because then she could get a prescription for an SAD lamp to do light therapy. And it's the very best, one of the best things you can do for seasonal affective disorder. And I suggested that she should be walking outside for 30 minutes a day at a gentle pace and increase her water to 6 glasses a day. So we did a few more things here. The protein, right? Asked her to talk to her doctor, get her to go for a walk every day, and drink 6 glasses of water a day. So doubling her water intake. Again, pretty simple, right? Bite-sized steps, little steps that she could do, especially considering she was feeling depressed. Giving too much homework to someone who's depressed, it's never going to happen. Giving them things that are kind of nebulous, like I want you to do more of something, not clear enough. Giving specific measurements. Let's get 6 glasses of water a day. Get a sticky note and just keep your little hash marks on there for how many glasses you have every day. When you have your walk every day, put a check mark on the calendar. Create a way of keeping track of this. So about a month later, when she came back in, her doctor agreed. Absolutely, SAD, gave her a prescription for the SAD lamp. She started using it right away, and instantly, woo, we are half plant folks. We need sunshine. And when we live where we don't get the sunshine, those SAD lamps can be a miracle. She found that she was able to get her water up to 6 glasses a day. She was pretty good at getting her protein, but she wasn't getting the walks every day. But that's okay, because from first appointment to third appointment, she had come so far that now I could just focus on, if the walks aren't working, what would? Do you have an exercise bike? I'd rather you were outside if you could, but if you live where it gets to be minus 30, maybe that's not reasonable some days. And so we could work with where she was at and come up with other ideas of things that could work for her to get some exercise and maybe get outside. So did you see that through all of that, never once did I give her anything that she had a disease name? And never once did I say, this will heal you. We constantly just talked about her symptoms, how they correlated to her eyes, and what were things that could be helpful. If this is working for you, give me an oh yeah in the comments box. If this makes sense and if it feels like it could be pretty easy to implement, give me an oh yeah. Oh yeah, love it. Yeah, perfect sense. Oh yeah, fantastic. Do another case study. Sound good? Sound good? This is a young man, 24 years of age. And again, with him, we're focusing on the iris. There's a lot going on in the sclera. Again, the sclera is what he's doing to himself. The iris is what his parents gave him. Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. We are focusing on the iris for today's work. So what we see, beautiful dark brown eyes, hematogenic eyes, right? Hematogenic eyes still have fiber structure. They just have so much pigment that that pigment is sitting on top of the fiber, so we don't see the fiber very well unless there are some major structural things with that fiber. So we can safely assume that that he has probably a decent fiber structure under there. So he's got the potential to feel really good if he would just take care of himself. Okay, now here's the problem. He doesn't take care of himself. Again, he's only 24 years old. Janine has commented on the nervous system. And absolutely, we've got lots of contraction throws that talk about nervous system. We actually don't see much in here that suggests too much about his lymphatic system. And so we aren't able to say that he needs to work on sweating, which is what Janine is saying, because we are not seeing a lot here that says lymphatics. You knowing this person quite well, I will tell you that he does need to get more physical activity. He does need to move his lymphatic system, but that's because I know his lifestyle. He has a lot of contraction furrows. Again, so that could suggest that he is more prone to things like anxiety, depression, and stress if he's not well nourished. He has the beginning right here of a lipemic diathesis, specifically a corneal arcus. He's awfully young to do that. We don't usually see that starting till the age of 50. And that could suggest either unbalanced lipids or unbalanced blood sugars. Somehow it ties back to liver and carbohydrates. We need to remember that type 2 diabetes and elevated cholesterol are Bobbsey twins. We often see them together. His bloodshot eyes, this is as far as we'll go with sclera, tells us that there's a lot of inflammation in his body, and there truly is. So with this client, I would ask him about inflammation. We can't tell him he has inflammation, so we have to ask, has your doctor ever suggested that there might be inflammation? You know, things like maybe arthritis or gout or bursitis, any of the itis conditions. And if we give that list, this client is going to hear some things that the doctor has probably told him. It's really important as well for our clients to be able to identify. So we give a little list, or we give them the opportunity to say what they know, because if our client says it, it's true. If we say it, and he owns it, but if we say it, he might go, oh no, that's not me. No. Never heard that. You know, if I say you have inflammation, he might go, no, I don't. And then if I ask, well, has the doctor ever said you've got arthritis? Yeah. Okay, well, that's a form of inflammation, right? So we need to get the client to say it so they don't get their back up and try to block it. So with this client, I would ask about the liver. I would ask about the diet. I would also ask about his circulation. Now, this is again, a 24-year-old man. When we took these photos, he was about 40 pounds overweight at the time. He's still at least that. He has a history of depression, anxiety, and gout, and is often on medications for those things. His family history is really awful. He grew up with a lot of emotional abuse and not a lot of love. Even now, his parents think it's funny to call him fat. You know, they don't do anything to encourage him to make healthy choices. They are Asian. And whenever there's a family gathering, there is so much food. You could feed the whole neighborhood. You know, for the 4 people that show up, you could feed the whole neighborhood. And most of it is not good food. Most of it is junky, high carb, you know, really not great. And they encourage everyone to eat as much as they want, which, you know, this is not good. Family history extended. Many aunts and uncles have passed away in their 60s due to cardiovascular issues. So they die young. You don't have to die that young. So what I've seen of this young man is when he's good, he's very good. When he decides he's going to work out regularly and cut out the pop and drink lots of water, he'll buckle down, he'll get to the gym for an hour a day, he'll clean up his diet, he'll eat his vegetables, he'll lose 10 pounds, he'll settle down emotionally, the anxiety will lessen, the gout will settle, and he can put those meds aside. When he's upset, sugar is his drug of choice. and he will go and buy the 2-quart or 2-liter bottle of pop and drink it in one sitting. He'll buy the big economy-sized tubs of candy and eat those while he's working at his desk. And of course, that upsets everything. He'll stop working out. He oversleeps. The gout returns. Ideally with him, he's not open to a lot of suggestions. He's not a client. He's a family member. And you often can't teach family members until they're ready, and he's not ready. And so ideally, if he was to come to me and say, what could I do? What should I do? What's the first step? I would probably want to have him on some ashwagandha or maybe some astragalus, something for his nervous system, something really gentle, maybe some cordyceps. I would want to have him on some methylated B vitamins and maybe something for his liver like some milk thistle. And it wouldn't be a heavy program. It might be 2 or 3 supplements, 1 or 2 capsules of each per day. Just keep it real low key. I would want him to only work out 3 or 4 times a week for about 30 minutes. And I would really encourage him, depending on how and where his gout was showing, because his tends to migrate a lot, I would encourage him to have different things. If the gout was in his wrists, let's just go for a 30-minute walk. If it's in your feet and ankles, can we get you doing 30 minutes of weightlifting with your upper body? What are some things that we can do that can work around what your symptoms are? I would want him to cut out soda and drink more water and eat more leafy greens. Those would be the kinds of things where we would start with him and we would just continue to build it as he was ready. It's really important that when you're working with someone who comes from that background of being emotionally abused and really not loved, that we are very careful with our word choices, because anytime we suggest a change, they don't hear that as, oh, that's going to help me. They hear that as, I'm not good enough again, and now I need to change something. I need to change something to earn love. And so just have to be very careful and understand where their brain is at in order to give them the support they need to bring them along the pathway. Yeah, to see that, I love the tears there, because absolutely, absolutely. So in the right eye, he's got a little lacuna at 10 o'clock. So in his right eye, he's got that there, absolutely. So that could be indicative of pancreas. Question earlier on was camera. The camera is only half the picture. You need lenses and you need lighting setups, right? So the camera that I shoot on is a Canon. I'm looking to upgrade it soon. The lens that I shot these photos with is a 60mm autofocus macro lens. And the illuminator that I have on that is the Iris Explorer 4 was what I was shooting then. Now I've got the Iris Explorer 5. So the illuminator is the lighting piece that goes on front. And again, I've got a couple different setups that I use. I've actually got 3 that I use, and I choose the setup based on the client. You don't need 3. I just happen to love having that kind of gadgetry. So when we look at this, here's what I'm hoping you took from today. And I want to know in the comments if this is what you heard, that too many iridologists are using old, disproven information. Iridologists cannot diagnose. We cannot name disease. We cannot prescribe. Did you hear that loud and clear? Cyrene says yes. Wonderful. Iridologists in North America and through most of Europe are typically not medical doctors. I understand that in Russia and Germany, you have to be a medical doctor. In Germany, you have to be a heilpraktor in order to use iridology, so they can diagnose and they can prescribe. The rest of us cannot. The safest way to practice, and because of that, we should not pretend to be doctors by diagnosing or prescribing. The safest way to practice iridology and to be of the best service to our clients is to study and use constitutional iridology, just like you've seen today, to guide our client assessments and to guide the questions we ask and to guide the recommendations we make. And that is exactly how I teach iridology. I hope that is what you gleaned from those iris assessments we did. On that vein, the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System course is a course that I have designed, and I only teach health professionals. You have to have an anatomy and physiology course under your belt to come into my course. And I do that very specifically because if you understand how the body works, we can go so much deeper. Otherwise, if you don't have that, we are just learning iris markings on a map, and we're not learning how they relate to one another, okay? Janine says, I will be your student by July. Yes, Janine, I will welcome you with open arms. Fantastic. The Dynamic Iridology Assessment System is the only live, online, fully mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, and nutritionists who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. It's designed to help you learn how to assess your client and create the protocols right in your paid client session, rather than doing what so many professionals do, which is gather client information, go off on your own, spend 2 or 3 or 4 hours creating a program to email back to the client. Who's paying for those 2 or 3 or 4 hours? I ask you, who is? And if it's taking you that long to create your protocols, you are giving too much information. You are snowballing and fire hosing your client. The Dynamic Iridology Assessment System is taught in live online webinars, 20 of them once a week, 1 a week, 2¼ hours long each. Each class is recorded for playback on demand. The course builds in a logical, sequential way. We start very foundationally and work our way all the way up till by the end, we are practicing doing assessments and protocol creation right in the class. I limit my cohorts to no more than 10 students per class because I think better learning happens in small groups. These are interactive. It gives you the opportunity to ask questions. Tasita is asking, will you provide information on joining your course? Yes, I'm going to do that in just a moment. Absolutely. We have live group mentoring twice each month. So not only do we have the live interactive classes, but at 2 other times in the month, we have a scheduled time where students can bring cases and questions. We call them office hours. So you can come and dive deep, rub shoulders with students who are in other cohorts or students who have graduated, even students who have certified. Extra mentoring. I don't know any other instructor that offers this. We have a student and alumni. Ooh, I need to update this. It's a MeWe group. We moved it to MeWe because Facebook likes to censor what we say. I don't like being censored. I want to speak and teach the truth as I know it, even if someone doesn't agree with me. So we are now on MeWe. This is a group for students and alumni. So even if you finished the course, even if you've graduated, even if you certified years ago, and you're one of my students, you get to keep coming to the Facebook group and the office hours. I gift you with a 225 page digital textbook. I've kept my textbook digital because every now and then IPA likes to tweak the curriculum. It'll add a little bit, and what a shame it would be if I had pre-printed 100 of these textbooks and now I needed to add a page. So by keeping it digital, I can keep my book current and up to date, and I can make the most recent edition available to all of my students, past and present, so you don't have to keep buying new textbooks as they get updated. We have a 45-page digital study note, which we call the cheat sheets. It's the whole curriculum condensed into 45 pages of charts and graphs. This is your Coles notes or your Cliff's notes. It's the synopsis of the course. I also, in the scope of the course, offer the IPA certification mentoring one-on-one. Most teachers charge extra to prepare you for certification. I do not, but I do give you a deadline. From your very last class, I give you 10 months to complete your certification. It is doable. I've had students do it in 4 months. Totally doable to do it in 10 months. And in that 10-month time, I commit to giving you whatever mentoring you need, either in the scope of office hours, in the MeWe group, or in private one-on-ones if they're needed, in order to prepare you for certification. My gift to you. I provide all of the case studies that you need to fulfill some of those mentoring requirements that IPA has outlined. This is what one of my students has said. And I just want to say that on just going back one, everything from point number 2 down to the bottom, I don't know of any other IPA certified instructor that gifts that to their students. They usually sell you a textbook. They sell you extra time if you want mentoring, right? And so I gift you with many things here. Chris Mayer is a graduate of my course. I asked her, why did you decide to take my course? She is a yoga instructor and a herbalist. She said, I wanted to improve my offerings as a health coach. I did not have a foundational framework for building individual programs based on each client's unique need. Constitutional iridology was that missing link, and you consistently reinforce that foundation. Love it. Love it. Trisha Colsto, a recent graduate, said, and she actually gave this to me when she was like on her 3rd lesson, 3rd out of 20. Just wanted to say that as a new student in dynamic iridology who has worked in iridology previously and was certified by another teacher, I have learned more in my first 2 lessons of dynamic iridology than in all my previous training. Well, what did she learn? Like before she came to me. I'm so glad I decided to sign up. I know that after taking this course, I will be able to offer my clients the best and most up-to-date knowledge. Trisha was funny, and I know she wouldn't mind sharing this because she sent me a recording of this. She said, I signed up for your class and I instantly had regret that I had, because I could have bought my biofeedback machine for what I paid for your course. And then she said, and then she sent me this and said, but after the 2nd lesson, I knew I'd made the right decision. So pretty amazing. I just love that. So if you want to see if dynamic iridology is a good fit for you, you can only enroll by talking to me personally. I want to talk to you. I want to make sure it's a good fit. Now, that might sound a little odd, but the reason I do that is this. Before, when I used to just throw out a registration link and anybody could sign up, what I found is people would say, yeah, I know anatomy, I can do this, but their anatomy was not deep enough. It wasn't a college course. It was what they'd picked up from reading books over the years. And they dropped out by about the 5th or 6th lesson because we were getting way too deep for them. And so that breaks my heart. They've enrolled, they've paid, they committed, and now they're feeling defeated. I would rather recommend they do an anatomy and physiology course first. When they've got that done, now come to me. So I want to talk to you personally, one-on-one in a Zoom video call, so that we can make sure you've got the anatomy and physiology, so that we can make sure we've got good chemistry. That's really important too, right? We can make sure that we are going to work well together. And if we can see that that is the case, then in the scope of that call, I will offer you the opportunity to enroll. I'll provide you with the link. I'll give you details about tuition, about the payment plans, if you need a payment plan. I'll give you a tour of what your student site looks like, all of the things you'll have access to there. Right. I'll give you the guided tour, just like you're going to a university campus to scope it out to see if you want to go to that school. And so I encourage you, use this link, tinyurl.com, dynamic-iridology-insight. Schedule a call if you've already got A&P under your belt. If you don't have A&P, send me an email or reach out to me on Facebook, and I'll send you a link to the anatomy course that I think is the very best one. Now, the other side of A&P is that the International Iridology Practitioners Association requires proof of you having completed a college level A&P course with a grade of 80% or better before you can complete your certification, before they will issue you a certified iridologist diploma. And so again, by us knowing you've got A&P, it means that's out of the way so that we can just get on with learning iridology and get you through to the end of the course. So does that make sense why I do things the way I do? My goal isn't just to enroll as many students as I can and collect your money and go all the way to the bank. My goal is to teach people who want to be professional iridologists at a level that they can take it and use it in practice. And I want you to be successful. I want you to be the best iridologist out there, right? And so that's why I'm a little bit picky. And that's why I do these, is so that you can see what's going to be required. And so that if you don't have A&P, we can connect on another level, make sure you get that, and then you come back to me. So some of you have said you want details of how to enroll. If you've got the A&P under your belt, let's book a call. If you don't, reach out to me and I'll let you know the link that you need to get the A&P course. To get an A&P course that IPA has already approved as meeting their requirements for A&P, and that I know meets my requirements for A&P as well. And yeah, and that's where we want to be. Any other questions or comments today? What did you learn today about anything? What was something where you went, oh, that is so cool. I did not know that. I want to know what you learned. Give you just a minute. You know what I always learn from these is that there are a lot of really lovely people out there who would make really good iridologists. Jacita is saying the difference in camera and light. Oh, such an important thing to know and understand. Good job, Jacita. So glad for that. Anybody else pick up something new today? Give you just a minute. It was more like a confirmation of me going simple. I simply love this approach. Excellent. Janine says, I've learned about light. Triple reminder that we can't diagnose. Yes. Cyrene says, what a fabulous teacher you are. Cyrene, thank you. Tara says, sorry, missed most of this. We'll watch the replay. Fabulous. That's why we do the replays. Not everyone can make it to the class, to the mini classes, or they just want to see it again. Fantastic. All righty. Well, with that, my friends, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you. I really have enjoyed my time. I hope you have too. And I do look forward to seeing you on future mini classes and having you in the course in the near future. And again, if you have your A&P already and you are looking for an iridology class and you're thinking, this one sounds good, use that link, tinyurl.com, Dynamic Iridology Insight. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if it is a good fit. Gabriella, thank you so much for those lovely wishes. And I wish the same for you, for each of you on this call with me today, that you just have a wonderful day and a brilliantly successful year. We'll talk to you soon. Make it a good one today. Bye for now. How was that? If you're watching this on YouTube, I would love it if you would take a moment to drop a comment below and let me know what you learned from this mini class. As always, take a moment to like the video, to subscribe to the channel. It really does help to make these videos more visible to more people. Thanks for your help.